Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey gang, back again. We're in the 100s. It's the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am Charlie Carden, your Trek Lord of West Michigan, now Commodore in Starfleet International, but you're a commanding officer of the USS Grand Petoskey here in West Michigan, joined by my new recurring guest host and featured talented individual, Jen Watson from Chicago. Jen, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's good to have you. Jen, I appreciate your uniform. It's a weekday for me. I'm exhausted from the road. I was like, the badge is all I can muster. So I'm on a Section 31 undercover time travel mission. We're gonna go with that. But as always, to kick things off, we love to thank our awesome Patreons who bring everything to the table for us and help us make all this great fun content that we do. So I am, of course, talking about the awesome Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry, your friend and mine, Missy Merchant, an awesome contributor to the show, including our blowout 100th episode last time where we did our Trek bracketology. She was a part of that. And her friend, Annie Milliken, and of course, on the Best Buds level, Jamie Prinky. If you'd like to learn more about our Patreon or just would like to learn more about us in general, patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. You can learn about the different levels of inclusion and participation and learn about all of our great extra content. In fact, I did read something recently that Patreon is going to start offering people a week free trial to try out a Patreon to see if it's something that you want to do. So more news on that as we evolve. So, but anyway, on to the show. We're in a weird little segment that we haven't been in a while because we don't have a new show to talk about. We got lucky last week because we had last episode because we had our 100th episode and we had something big planned. But this week we're floating. It is late May right now. We're getting Strange New Worlds on June 15th here in the U.S. So in the meantime, we planned something a little different. And then, of course, also bringing you a little bit more of Voyager Season 3. But we're lucky because we do have a couple of news stories, which we don't always have going on. So at first, we do have, and this has been news for a couple of weeks now. Oh, Mr. Bigglesworth has jumped up. I usually keep my cats out, but it's funny. I was recording one of our Patreon segments earlier this week with my partner, Candy McFarlane, and her cat was circling her. And then I had walked down the stairs and not closed the hatch behind me. And so I got a dog and a cat, and they just kind of orbit and they meow because they want to jump up, but then they don't actually want to jump up. It's a real pain.
No, he wants
but anyway,
water.
Oh my gosh.
He has not learned up is bad, down is good.
Oh my, he doesn't have your basic spot lessons.
No.
All right. Anyway, back to the news. We know that out in Hollywood and certainly in New York are kind of the flashpoints of the Writers Guild strike right now. We've talked about this a lot over on Secret Friends Prime podcast. These folks are fighting for their livelihood right now in the ever-changing landscape that streaming has created. And Star Trek is a great example. Star Trek came back to us because of streaming in 2017 with Star Trek Discovery, and that's just continued to evolve over the last several years. But these folks are out there fighting for their livelihood, and Star Trek actors and Star Trek writers are at the forefront of it. So, Jen, I would ask you where you stand with the WGA strike, but I know as an artist and as a creator, you're probably 1,000% behind these folks.
Absolutely. It is a shame that creative individuals are not given the respect or the pay that they deserve. I am 100% with this group of people. I've seen their list of demands. They've published it, and I think it's worth it. And I think that this is going to hopefully start a cascade effect throughout all of the creative fields, not just in Hollywood, but throughout everywhere. I mean, fingers crossed, hopefully. I'm a designer. I'm an illustrator. I'm an artist. I've got an Etsy shop. I make my money with creative work. So
Right.
I'm glad to see it. Glad to see that so many of our Trek family are out there supporting the writers. And you know, the Actors Guilds are getting involved, and I don't care if that means that we have to wait a little bit longer for all of our shows to come back, because I want them produced under fair conditions, with the respect for the writers.
Absolutely. Yeah. The likes of Tawny Newsome, who I had the pleasure of spending, actually being on stage with during the cruise in New York, Anthony Rapp, Celia Rose Gooding, and Jess Bush from Strange New Worlds, Anthony Rapp, of course, from Discovery, were seen out in New York City. There's a great photo that was on Twitter a couple of weeks ago of a huge group of folks, which also included Anthony Montgomery from Enterprise, Chase Masterson from Deep Space Nine, and just a great, and then, of course, the guy who married April and I, Mr. Todd Captain, Mr. Todd Stashwick, is also featured prominently in these photos, and of course Jerry Ryan as well out there in LA. So this writer strike has been going on for nearly 30 days, I think now. So the last one of these big strikes, and again we've talked about this more extensively on SFU Prime, was back in 2007. That noticeably chopped up series like Heroes, Lost, if I'm not mistaken, and the writer strike before that was in 1988, and it impacted season 2 of TNG and gave us Star Trek's only clip show, Shades of Grey.
Good old Shades of Grey.
Which limped us through the end of a 22 episode season, which would have typically been 26. So all of our love and appreciation to these writers. Let's hope that they are able to get something resolved pretty quickly. So, all right, moving on to some more uplifting news. Just today, and we're recording this on Wednesday, the 24th, before your long Memorial Day weekend. We got a second trailer for Strange New World Season 2. We're super excited to bring you this information, bring you coverage of the show when it drops next month. So you got that to look forward to. But in between these 3 weeks, we have this amazing trailer that was filled with a flurry of different quick cuts. We get to see the previously hinted adventure that's going to be between La'an and Lieutenant Kirk. That would be Paul Wellesley, who we saw last season. You're seeing some very hot and heavy cosplay between Spock and Nurse Chapel. You're seeing a pretty exciting storylines with Ortegas and with Dr. Mabenga. But the thing that stole the show, and it came in the last 30 seconds of the trailer, was the much hinted about and finally seen first live action appearance of Ensign Beckett Mariner, played by Tawny Newsome, and Ensign Bradward Boimler, played by Jack Quaid, from both imported from Star Trek Lower Decks, which anybody who listens to the show knows how much we love Lower Decks. I've had a chance to meet both of these folks. As I've been on stage with both of them. I was on stage at Mission Chicago with both of them, and got to meet Jack Quaid. I was so starstruck standing next to Jerry O'Connell and having my picture on Instagram. It was just wearing the same uniform. There's already been a buzz in a lot of the Facebook groups I follow that, the uniform is different. Is Kazermart, who's the vendor we all work with, going to be making the new uniform? And I'm like, well, it's a little different, but it's cartoon versus reality.
Yeah,
so
you have to take some liberties when you translate one of the regular uniforms into animation. So I would imagine it's the same way around that too. The shoulders are a little bit lower than I would expect, but it looks better on the live action person, I think, to have it that way.
Right. Yeah, you couldn't exactly. Yeah, it's the same way in Lower Decks. They have the occasional crossover where you see the First Contact Nemesis gray shouldered uniform. It doesn't look exactly the same, but again, it's animation. They take liberties. So yeah, kind of tilting it in the other direction. A great comparison would be live action characters in Star Wars, the Clone Wars. We have Ahsoka, who was voiced by Ashley Eckstein, who is now portrayed in live action, albeit though over a space of time, by Rosario Dawson. lesson. The characters don't look the same, even in a flashback. The characters like Anakin Skywalker don't look the same from one to the other. So yeah, you just got to use your imagination a little bit. But anyway, this looks amazing. Yeah, the parting shot of Spock offering the Vulcan salute to Boimler and then watching him stumble through what to say back.
The thing too, yeah. But it's so Boimler. It's so, and like, that's kind of what we'd be doing too, I think. I mean, I know I would if I was in that situation. I wouldn't know what to say.
Oh God, no.
That's one of the things I love about the Lower Decks characters is that they're just kind of us.
Yeah, they're people.
They know the references that we do. They love the stuff that we do. It's fantastic. I cannot wait to see this.
Me neither. That'll be great. Now, it's my understanding that is one of the later episodes of the season, maybe 6 or 7. So we won't be seeing that until late summer. But how exciting. I mean, this show burst on the scene just about a year ago. And this was what I think most of the diehards, the holdouts, the people who couldn't wrap their mind around Discovery because of its departure, couldn't wrap their mind around Picard because it was too dark. I mean, people are absolutely allowed their opinions, but I have not met anybody who, I hasten to use the word credibly, has had anything nasty to say about Strange New Worlds. It is universally loved. It's like TNG, which, do keep in mind, TNG was not warmly received when it first came along, because you had a lot of the same diehards who still, oh, that's not my Star Trek, because it baffles the imagination that in a franchise that encourages diversity and looking at things in different ways, and there are a million stars in the sky, that they have some people who say, well, my Trek is the right Trek. But again, TNG blossomed, but we all know that it took 3 years. We all know that
it did. And Strange New Worlds has been excellent right out of the gate.
Out the gate. So good.
You can say that Discovery Season 2 was kind of a soft first season for it, but
true.
That's the stuff that gave us the desire to see these characters and what their show would be. And I, for one, have just fallen in love with it from the beginning. I am so excited for it. I hesitate to use the word favorite because I also really love Lower Decks and Prodigy,
right.
And but I do think that Strange New Worlds is probably my favorite of the newer shows.
Totally.
So
I am totally on board with that. And again, you're right. I hesitate to use favorites because the beauty of what we've got out of Star Trek now is that everything is so different. You do have a different flavor for kind of every taste, which Star Trek didn't really have that to offer during that first golden age, because you had DS9. Yes, DS9 and Voyager had a lot of differences, but it was all in the same continuity and it was all filmed in a lot of the same ways. So there was a lot of sameness to it. Now, I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I was raised on that, and that's absolutely what so many of us come to ignore. But or come to adore about it. But regardless, I think this is going to be absolutely terrific. I cannot wait for June 15th. And again, we will be giving you, the most up-to-date coverage that we can. So anyway, okay. So moving on, we're doing something a little different because we've got these 2 episodes where we don't have something new to tackle. The last time we did this, we took on a couple of the movies, but I had this idea, in now approaching 60 years of the franchise, we have had well over 850 episodes of Star Trek continuity, getting close to 900. It was funny. I'm an enormous fan of The Amazing Spider-Man, the title. And I have, in the last 10 years, digitally read and reread all of the issues, and there's over 900. As a matter of fact, I'm reading the most recent ones right now. But I stopped to think, hey, there's some amazing storylines, and there's some that are just god awful, and I would never go back and read them a second time. And the same is true of Star Trek, without a doubt. So what Jen and I took on, she picked one and I picked the other, and next episode we're going to switch. I picked a episode that I thought was she picked an episode that she thought was great, and I picked an episode that I thought was terrible. And as it turns out, they were both in season 5 of Star Trek The Next Generation. We didn't plan it that way, and I'm not saying that next week it'll be the same, because next episode it could be something totally different, but I'll go ahead and present my great episode, Jen will go ahead and present her great episode. Yes. And then I will go ahead and present my less than great episode. And we'll see what happens. This is an experiment. And depending on how it goes, we'll segue right into part 3 of Voyager season 3. So Jen, without further ado, please take it away.
All right. So I know that in our last episode, we had the whole bracket thing and we discussed a lot of episodes. I wanted to bring something that was not on that bracket, but that I thought probably belonged on there. And one of the episodes that I really love, and it's Darmok from season 5 of Next Generation. The summary is that Picard is captured and trapped on planet with an alien captain who speaks a metaphorical language incompatible with the universal translator. They must learn to communicate with each other before a deadly planetary beast overwhelms them. Yes, that's the second episode of season 5. I have had people ask me if I could show a friend one episode of Star Trek out of any series. And this is a really difficult question, but this is the episode that I came to. This is the quintessential, Next Generation in particular, but all of Star Trek, I think, really deals with seeing the other and being empathetic with the other and finding your common ground and learning that there are things that you have in common and differences that you can also celebrate. So this is one of my favorite episodes. It deals with stories. I love stories. Stories are just my favorite thing. So what do you think?
Well, it's funny because this was I had a lot of departures from Next Generation when I was a kid as far as how I watched it, and I've mentioned this on the show before. I was 11 and in 6th grade when TNG came on in the fall of '87. I watched it pretty seriously for the first couple of years and then fell off for some reason. I dabbled in seasons 3 and 4, and I came on it's funny, the bad episode that we're going to talk about is from the end of season 5, and that's when I was back as a fully fledged viewer, and I can't believe that one didn't scare me off. I'm like, oh well, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to come back. So this was not one that I saw right up to bat right at the time. So this was from the fall of '91. Your guest star was the fantastic Paul. I was going to call him Paul Terrell. Who is Paul? What is the guest star's name? He played Captain Terrell in Star Trek 2. Why am I drawing a blank on his? Hold on. I'm thinking of Paul Winfield as Dathan, who is the
Yes.
captain, the captain of the Children of Tama, which is this race. Just to kind of paint you a picture, if you've not seen the episode, which I'm sure you have. This starts out in a great captain's log, and you see the ship coming towards you, and he's describing the mission they've been dispatched to, and then we immediately, they're meeting a race that's made a diplomatic overture to have somebody from the Federation come out. So it starts with a conference room scene where everybody's kind of talking about, well, this is this Children of Tama. There's this race that the universal translator is no help. The last contact was 100 years ago, and the captain at that time called them incomprehensible. So we really don't know what's going to go down. And
No.
this is all in the cold open.
We don't.
Get that. Yeah,
But,
Go ahead,
one
please.
of the things that Picard says at this point is that communication is a matter of patience and imagination.
Right.
And I think that really captures what his role is in this, and why, not just because he's the captain, but because he's, the character that's going to have that patience with them, to seek to understand. It's one of the things I like about his captain style is that's what he does. He is the diplomat. We see that Worf suspects a contest.
Right, he always does. Yeah, and right from the beginning in that that briefing room scene, and this is very typical of any situation, and it just really speaks to the dichotomy of all the characters. He immediately jumps to they could be threatening our borders, the same way that he's like, well, the Romulans are coming, and I'm sure they're going to try to do this, or this thing or that. They have no honor. We're going to have to fight. He immediately assumes the worst, because that is his, imperative as a Klingon, and certainly as security officer, he's really doing his job.
It's his background. We all bring our background to what we interpret of the story, of what we interpret other people's actions to be. So when you have a background that's fraught with contest and conflict and rivalry, that's what you're going to jump to.
Right. So yeah. So again, before the cold open is over, Picard is essentially kidnapped from this strange backwards talking species. He and this other captain, Dathan, end up on the planet together. Dathan is standing with two daggers held astray, telling the captain. Whatever it is he's trying to tell the captain, but Picard stays patient. He doesn't rise to anger. He simply says, I'm not here to fight you. I'm not here to start a war. But what we then quickly find out is that they're on this weird planet. The alien race is preventing the Enterprise from rescuing Picard, and even a shuttlecraft piloted by Worf to get him is disabled and returned. But there's this alien creature on this planet. So the whole thing is a plot by the children of Tama to make a bold gesture to build a bridge between these two societies.
Darmok and Jalad at
Tanagra, exactly. So it's all entirely based around building bridges in the only way they know how, through metaphor. And it's incredible. And it again, I would imagine you probably agree with me that what makes this episode so great is that it embodies, as you've said, everything that makes Trek amazing, celebrating diversity, finding different ways to look at things, and just overall remembering that what I think is right or how I would go about doing things may mean nothing to someone else. Someone else may not even be able to speak a language that through technology or translation that I would ever be able to understand.
Right. So the translator can translate the individual words, but the phrases that are put together, you don't understand what they mean because you don't have the context. Troy points out later in the episode, after they've done some of the research into this, that if you say Juliet on her balcony, if you don't know who Juliet is or what she's doing up there, you don't know that means something romantic.
Exactly.
So you have the Temerians just repeating Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Yeah.
And
it's like, why don't you get it?
I don't know. It's like, well, why are you fighting us? It's Darmok and Jalad.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said?
Minds, they're saying, we're trying to have a peaceful solution here. And the Enterprise, Riker, Worf, they're just not getting it. They're just
exactly. So a couple of little quirks just to throw in there. This was the first episode that debuted the Captain's Bomber Jacket, which you saw me wearing in our last episode. Jen, I have not yet watched our video of our 100th episode that I actually put together, but I saw a screen cap of it, which I shared with you and everybody else. But when he put it together, it's in kind of a 9. He said it's like the Brady Bunch. I have to sit down and watch it. But our 100th episode was, almost 3 hours long. So you understand why I haven't tossed it on just yet, but I really ought to. But no, that was the jacket I was wearing last time. It was this kind of fun, like quilted, like almost kind of suede leather kind of thing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not only super uncomfortable, but I'm starting to replace some of my uniforms because with my promotion, flag officers have totally different uniforms, and I like to cosplay my rank if I can in SFI. So I'll probably be looking to get rid of that one. That could be one that could interest Scott. Maybe I would. Maybe he should try it on. But this was the first time that appeared. And then there was a blooper that was fixed. You probably have never seen it because it was, depending on when you saw this episode for the first time, it was corrected, I think, when they released it in Blu-ray. But there was a really erroneous shot of the deflector dish firing the phaser beam. The photon torpedo launcher firing phaser beams instead of the phasers.
Okay, yeah, I saw this
Doesn't ring
in the
a bell?
90s, but in reruns, so
yeah.
I'm sure I've seen it.
Yeah. So anyway, little quirks that we very serious nerds notice. But yeah, this was great. It was groundbreaking in a way that that Star Trek always really does. At the end of it, both Dathan and Picard fight the creature. Dathan does not survive, but in gaining understanding, it gives Picard the chance to communicate with Dathan's crew.
Well, and the reason that he doesn't survive either is because the crew back on the Enterprise beams Picard away, or tries to, so Picard can't do anything to help save Dathan at that point and jump in on that fight. So the fact that they're not understanding, they're not even really trying, they're just making these assumptions that there's an ill intent because, you kidnapped our captain because they don't know the story.
Right. Well, yeah.
So they're like, we have to get him back. And that lack of understanding is what eventually is going to lead to that sacrifice. And it is a sacrifice because Dathan kind of knows what he's getting into. There are stakes for this.
Yeah.
He is putting himself into this danger knowingly, knowing that maybe Picard won't understand. And I think that's something that you have to do if you want to make yourself heard and understood. You have to put yourself out there and risk other people not understanding, other people maybe attacking, because people will attack what they don't understand. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it in friends. I've seen it just out in the world that when something comes across your life that you don't understand, are you going to lash out? Are you going
Right.
to
Out
make
of fear.
assumptions?
Right.
Are you going to try to be patient and sort of decode and deconstruct? Someone's coming at you with Darmok and Jalad and Tanagra, and you
You're
don't
like,
know what
whoa,
that
dude.
means.
Yeah.
And I just it just shows that patience and empathy are key to being able to communicate with one another, finding a common ground. And for me personally, I find a common ground in the stories that I love. I mean, we're doing it right now, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And as a cosplayer, I mean, most of my friends, my boyfriend, people that I meet through cosplay. And I know a little bit about someone because of the character that they've chosen to cosplay, the story that they identify with. So when someone comes and tells me a story that they love, and I know more about them because of that, it's similar to what's going on in this episode too. And of course, context is everything too. You don't have the
Mhm.
context. You can know the story. You don't necessarily know the context, but it gives you a jumping off point to learn more about someone else and share your story with them too, just like Picard did telling the Epic of Gilgamesh
Right. Oh,
to
that's a great
Dathan.
story.
Yeah.
It was great. Little known fact, the character of Gilgamesh in Marvel Comics, portrayed as one of the Eternals, was briefly a member of the Avengers in the early 90s. And in one of their, there was an Avengers arc where the Avengers had completely fallen apart. Captain America wasn't even Captain America at that point, but he put the team back together with actually Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman and Gilgamesh. Those were the members of and Thor. Those were the members of the team. It was a really weird team that only lasted for like 4 or 5 issues. But I loved it. But that, when I think of Gilgamesh, it was funny because it was right around the same time this episode was on, and I was a very avid Avengers and Spider-Man reader at the time. So anyway, yeah, it's more comic references than I usually sneak into the show, but I also put a lot of Star Trek references into our Star Wars show, Holocron Chronicles. So I do like to spread it around. So all right, cool. All right, so that is the and that was great. When this was fun, I love this. So let's move into talking about something that I know I didn't enjoy, but if you found something great in this, I think that's great. We shall see. Episode the bad, as it were, and I remember hating this from when I saw it in the fall, probably in the fall of '92. I think the spring of '92, if I'm not mistaken. Season 5, episode 22 of Star Trek: The Next Generation is Imaginary Friend. As the Enterprise explores a nebula, a little girl's imaginary friend becomes terrifyingly real. Ooh. Oh my gosh. So
the red glowing eyes and everything.
With the red glowing eyes and everything. So, for me, kind of textbook example of, hey, we've got to produce 26 segments in 9 months. Some of them aren't going to be great. And May 4th of '92. So I was correct. This was from the springtime of our lives. This was when I was in my sophomore year in high school, I think. So we get a young girl, Clara Sutter, who lives with her father, Ensign Sutter. I always found it really weird that this dude was an ensign. When I feel like it would have been more plausible if he would have been like a chief, like Chief O'Brien, like his age would have made more sense.
Yeah.
But then again, it's all, picking nits. He could have been a civilian who later then went into Starfleet. Where's the girl's mother? They never addressed that.
Nope.
She's dead or whatever. Who knows? Maybe she's a test tube baby. They don't address that either. But I mean, the episode starts with this young girl talking to Counselor Troy, all about her imaginary friend. And the little girl is probably 10, Would
10,
you think?
11, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
probably too old to have an imaginary friend, but we probably don't need to pull on that thread. I mean, I was 10 and 11 still playing with action figures, and you see what's behind me. I don't play with them. They just sit there. If you're watching our YouTube channel, hey,
Sure.
everybody's got their own quirks. But yeah, we've got the Enterprise heading into a nebula. This Ensign Sutter is part of the engineering team, so you see him hanging around doing engineering stuff with Geordi and Data. But the little girl, after she leaves her counseling appointment with Counselor Troy, is in the Arboretum because she helps Keiko out, and she's planting seeds, and she's talking to Isabella, who's her imaginary friend, and then the little girl appears as a real corporeal being. And things are just aboundingly bad. So
I want to know at that point, where is Keiko? She's not there.
She would be Miss the equivalent of Sir not appearing in this film.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right, because that's her entire job, right? But then the little girl says, "Well, I've got to help Keiko in the Arboretum."
Right.
Was she on a long bathroom break? I mean, what's going on?
There were people in the background of the Arboretum. So like it doesn't even matter like where's Keiko specifically, but like who's paying attention to this child? Isn't there childcare on the Enterprise? Don't they have school? Like
it's like when I'm at a con and you have this happens to me all the time. I get stuck with a friend's kid because the friend is. I'm like, okay, I'm watching this kid. I get real tired of that shtick, but I digress. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and later on, the Isabella, who's the imaginary friend, is taking Clara around to spots on the ship where she's not supposed to go, but she's like, come on, it'll be fine. And then they run into Worf, and Worf's like, well, you're not supposed to be here.
This area is not designated for children.
Exactly. But if you go back now, I won't say anything. And then, all right, Isabella's like, come on, Isabella, let's go. And Isabella's like, giving Worf the stinkiest of the stink eyes. Like I could, it reminds me of that season 2 episode with the transforming huge, the old lady who transforms into the huge creature. And she's like, I could have torn you in half. And he's like, well, you didn't. And now you're locked up. Sucks to be you. Yeah. Just this was a miss for me on a lot of levels because you had to figure that an episode like this was going to go down eventually. I mean, you have the Enterprise with 1,000 people on it, probably roughly half, if not more of them are civilians and children. So there was going to be a kid-centric episode in this, but it despite the kind of manufacture, like, oh, we're trapped in this nebula and everything we do constricts the ship and the ship could be destroyed. It just felt like there were no stakes, right?
Exactly.
You know,
like,
without a fact, they were
say exactly is no stakes, nothing to engage the audience. And here's the thing: I know you don't like this episode. I think it's not the best episode either. I think it's fine. It's kind of a whiff. It's a nothing burger of an episode, right?
It's a whiff.
It is. It's a swing and a miss. But I see what it's trying to do. And that's probably the thing that gets me about some of these episodes that people say are really bad is that usually I can see what they're trying to do. And in this one, it's sort of in that Picard speech at the end there where he's talking about like, oh, you're seeing everything from the perspective of a child. Of course, you're going to think that we're restrictive and terrible and don't like your friend. And you're here to defend your friend, but you're this like powerful energy being. So you're going to trap our ship and, you don't like what we do. And Picard explains like, well, this is, we treat our kids like this to protect them and care for them. And it's kind of like the episode was sort of trying to say something about like the perspective of a child, and there's so many better ways that it could have been done. Now,
true, it was very, very after school special sitcom-y. And but for the fact, if you jump all the way back to the first episode and that exchange between Picard and Riker when they first meet, and he says, I'm not comfortable with children, but Starfleet has stuck me on a ship with children, and I have to basically fake my way through it, and it's your job to make sure I do it. Now, granted, this is now 5 years later, and everybody grows as a character, and so, has Picard really grown to love kids? Yeah, I mean, probably not, but he still gives one of those,
what the purpose is. Why the rules are in place for the children. And, I mean, I was a kid when this came out. I was probably not that much older than Clara and Isabella. So, being a kid watching this episode, I'm seeing like, I'm identifying with it as a kid. And
Yeah.
because I was so young when the show was on, I'm still sometimes kind of seeing it from that kid's perspective.
Yeah.
So I understand you said high school,
Yeah.
college,
Yeah. Yeah. High
something. So
school.
like
Yeah.
a high school guy is going to look at this episode and go, eh,
Yeah. Yeah. Big
yeah.
time. Big
But
time. That's valid.
contrast
That's
this with
valid.
later in Voyager when you have like Naomi Wildman episodes, right?
Right.
And there are ways to tell stories about children from children's perspectives with maybe better child actors that,
Right.
you know,
That's really something I noticed about the actress playing Isabella. She stumbled over the line. She was trying to do
yeah,
technobabble, and you swear to God, had to be somebody off camera with flashcards. She's like,
yeah,
"Your temporal this thing or that thing is not afflictable to our blood," and I'm like, "Oh,
it was
this
rough.
hurts."
It
This
was
hurts.
rough.
The interchange, and of course you got Brian Bonsall back as Alexander, the young version of
Hmm.
Worf's son, for a scene with Clara, and that was painful watching the kids interact. Like, oh, it's
Yeah.
really mean because he was doing the clay sculpture, and Isabella was mad because Clara was doing something without her and clearly didn't understand. Yeah, you're right. I would think,
Yeah.
from the perspective of a child watching this, which
Yeah.
like a child, not maybe somebody like my age, because again, you do have to think about the writers trying to do something to really speak to different audiences in different episodes. So
Yeah.
you're right. This one didn't land for me because I was out of the realm
You weren't the target
of the
audience.
viewership. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Within
a lot of people who are getting down on Prodigy these days because it's
right.
it's just a bunch of kids, and it's like
It's on Nickelodeon.
it's for
What do you want?
children.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Yeah, it's
literally the
literally
target audience.
yeah, it's like, people who get so honking mad about Star Wars when it's always kind of been for kids. But
Star Wars has always been for children.
right. But
I
now, yes,
completely agree. Yeah.
look how obsessed people are with saying, "Oh, this is just puerile," and blah, blah. My co-host Todd Oxtra is one of those people, but we don't need to get into that.
No, that's
Just from the notes on Memory Alpha, Rick Berman was an early supporter of the premise. Where in science fiction could you do an idea about an imaginary friend who turns out not to be imaginary? Yada yada yada. But again, yeah, it sounds like this was a freelancer script that was polished up by the
that
writing
explains
staff.
a lot, actually, because there were a lot of people that were out of character.
Yeah.
Picard being, not awkward around the child.
Right. Big time.
Data in this one was very weird for me. Like,
Yeah.
it is clearly a bunny rabbit. Like, it's
Right.
funny, and it's the kind of joke that as a kid I'm like, oh, haha, Data said a funny thing, but like,
Yeah, right.
it didn't like Data now. Sure, he talk about the bunny rabbit, but like
Right.
Data then,
Yeah.
like, if he's got the emotions chip, sure, make a joke.
Yeah.
I thought Guinan was great though, but Guinan's
Right.
always great.
Right. Yeah. You can't really think of a lousy Guinan. I mean, even in the season 6 in the Rascals episode when they were all young, she still found a way to pull it off.
Perfect.
Playing the role through two different actors.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this one was a miss for me. But anyway, good segment.
Yeah.
We're gonna come back next episode and we're gonna flip flop. Jen is gonna grab a worst. I'm gonna grab a best. So we're gonna spend the time in between doing some research, and we will come back to you with that. So
and that's going to be tricky for me because
I know.
but
I know.
I got a couple ideas.
That's good. I like it. All right. Well, let's move on to Act 3 or Segment 2. Yeah, we go Segment half, Segment 1, Segment 2. So now we're in Segment 2. We're taking on Season 3, Part 3 of Star Trek Voyager. So we got 6 or 7, I think 7 episodes that we're tackling, where we're picking up from where we left off. So I'm going to read the first one. We'll go onesie twosie, and then you can take it from there. So
Sounds great.
Episode 14 of the season is Alter Ego, directed by Robert Picardo. I didn't even click with that. Holy cow. Joe Manoski, who's a regular on the writing staff, was the writer from January of 1997. The crew enjoys a luau on the holodeck, and Tuvok discovers an unusual hologram. This was definitely from the period of time when I was not watching the show, because when I first saw this, I'm trying to figure out when I started to catch these. It was either when the series went into wider syndication and I could catch it on a station somewhere, or when everything dropped on disc, which happened in the early 2000s, because I have all of those discs. When we do a Comic-Con, if it's a big enough show, I have a TV and a disc player, and we show episodes. So someone will go into the big binder I have and just pull a disc out, and sometimes it could be an episode like this. So, all right, initial impressions.
I actually like this episode.
Me too, weirdly.
Yeah,
because it was very different, I thought.
Yeah, I remember liking it. And I did see it when it first aired. Voyager was one that I saw first airing for about the first 4 seasons.
Okay.
Maybe 5. So, yeah, I did see this originally. And it's like, okay, we've got Harry, Kim in love again. That's a trope. That's a thing.
Unattainable female.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
But I like that this shows the contrast between Harry and Tuvok. Usually you get a Neelix and Tuvok kind of contrast, where you've got Harry,
Tom and Tuvok,
or you got Tom and
or Tom and Harry.
Or Tom and Harry together. Right. Yeah. So this was really interesting, and there were things about it that I really liked, like them saying yes, no at the same time.
Right.
Are you friends? Yes, no.
Like Kirk and Spock. Yeah.
Right.
In Star Trek 4.
It was very much like that, because you've got
Italian food,
the stoic Vulcan, and you've got the guy who's in love with a woman again, right? So you've got emotions taking center. You've got Harry going, Tuvok, please teach me how to control my emotions. I don't want to be in love again. This is an issue for me. And of course, the holodeck woman, who's not actually a holodeck woman in the end, but decides that she is interested in Tuvok. And it becomes this like weird love triangle thing. And it has a lot to say, I think, about obsession, desire. Harry's kind of acting like a child, but Morena, the woman, is also kind of acting like a child. Well, a teenager, I should say,
right.
Not a child, but like a teenager. He's jealous.
It was very high school. I agree.
Very, very high school.
It was like, I like one of my closest friends to this day, who I've been friends with since middle school. I crushed on her, probably first girl I ever crushed on. She liked my brother, though nothing ever came of that. And nothing ever came of she and I, but we are very best. She lives in my neighborhood. We are very best friends. She's my person who feeds the cats when we're out of town. And, and she's just, but it's just like weird stuff like that, but doesn't really apply when you're to a hologram. But I like how that so much of and this was pretty much a bottle show, which means almost entirely filmed on standing sets, which so much of Voyager is, because the whole crux of the series is that they're traveling home. So much of it's going to happen on the ship. So you get to really drill down on, and you always have the same characters. There was a great website back in the day, and I don't know if it's still out there, but it was called the Crew Tracker. And it kept track of as many of the 150-ish crew members by name, because they were either always there or they died, or there was the time that they picked up some crew members from the Equinox, or this and that. You always got to so you got to see the same background people, and they got names eventually, and that kind of stuff. So you're right. I enjoyed this episode. And it was funny when you and I were heading into this block, we were like, oh, there's a lot of stinkers in this, but there ended up being some genuinely good ones, including the next one. So take it away. I liked this one very much.
I did too. This was Coda, written by Nancy Malone and directed by Nancy Malone and written by Jerry Taylor.
Series creator Jerry Taylor, yeah.
It's from January 29th of 1997. Janeway appears to be trapped in a time loop with different events, but all ending in her death.
Ooh, God, it was a good one. Holy cow.
It surprised me, because I know I've seen this one, but I didn't quite remember it. And so like I sort of had a remembrance of like what this actually wound up being in the end, what the mystery was. But getting there is the fun and interesting part. So
Right, yeah, like the first half, you're like, oh, it reminds me, of course, of the one of my favorite TNG episodes from, again, season 5. We just keep going back there. Was Cause and Effect.
Yeah.
And it was but with that one, you had no idea kind of worth it because it was always exactly the same. Where with this, it was they finally figure out that we're stuck in a time loop and we got to do something different,
and they get to the time loop so quickly. Because that's not the point of the episode.
Right. But it gets to the point where when she does finally die, it gave me some of my favorite moments with dead Janeway was Chakotay's trying to revive her and he's not being successful. And when the comm breaks through and it's Tuvok, he says, "Yes, Voyager, we're here." And a big tear falls from his eye. And I'm like, that is cinematography personified, like catching an exact perfect moment. And then later on they get her back, they can't revive her, and they're having a memorial service, they're having a wake for her, and Harry gives that big long speech and Janeway is a ghost and she's in the back and she's crying and trying to wipe her own tears even though there's no one there to see her. Two of the most emotionally impactful moments of the series for me. I mean, it's so weird in an episode that you're like, well, this is very formulaic in so much that there's a weird temporal thing, and then it turns out there's an alien that takes the form of her father, actor Len Carew, who's a very famous actor, gives us a really awkward admiral's uniform that I'm glad we never saw again.
I had questions about that.
Yeah, you know what? I know uniforms, so hit me. I'll answer them if I can.
I mean, my question really was the nitpick of it, because he should not have had a newer style comm badge with the rectangular background on it.
Correct. I would simply say that because it's a hallucination.
Exactly. He doesn't actually know.
Her brain is fuzzy and rebuilt his outfit.
I'm like, this is a clue. I'm going to go with this is intentional. This is a clue. That's my no prize for this one.
No prize. That's a very good Marvel reference. I like it. Just like his uniform is kind of like in Picard season 2. One of the few things I can pull out that I like. Picard is remembering talking to his father, played by actor James Callis, Baltar from BSG, wearing a variation of the DS9 uniform because he's imagining he's talking to a counselor, but the uniform's not quite right.
Yeah.
A good clue, but because I mean, I could tell you exactly what an admiral's uniform was supposed to look like in 2352 when he died, because it's in Memory Alpha. You know what I mean? It didn't look like that at all. It would look like uniforms did in the first season of TNG. Right. So I really liked this episode, and this is one I think the episodes I missed in season 3 I probably caught during the summer of 97, because there was this thing called reruns back in the day, kids.
Came on as reruns
because on Thursdays at 8, Voyager was supposed to be on, so they would just show whatever they had, and it was from the previous season. So, this was definitely a summer of 97 when I saw it. But I liked this. I thought this was really, really strong and told a very Star Trek kind of story, but still gave you some nice kind of character development for Janeway too, and just showed you
for sure.
Much like how Picard was very resolute and tough in Darmok, she really stuck to her guns in this.
For sure. This is a character study for Janeway where she is just stubborn, fighting. She's so determined, and I mean that's just her character. My notes even say where Picard has diplomacy. And Kirk uses his charm or his fists, Janeway is going to use her sheer force of will to get through.
Sheer force of will. Good. All right. Now I have a title for the episode, because I've been sitting here this whole time saying we haven't had a witticism that has been good enough for an episode title. Sheer force of will. I like it. That was a beautiful misspeak. You're immortalized.
My verbal typo.
Oh my God, that's perfect. Thank you for that. I was really struggling. But yeah, you're right. It illustrates between our great leaders, Kirk, Picard, and then moving on to Janeway. This really typifies kind of what she was great at. And then she and Chakotay had a nice moment at the end where they were going off to have a platonic date, you might think.
And they had cute flirty moments at the beginning too.
I know. Oh,
going
my
off
goodness.
on their thing after the talent show with the Dying Swan performance.
Talent show.
Janeway.
Oh my gosh! And I love that. Tuvok Tuvok participated in talent show with his Vulcan poetry, and they just couldn't stop making fun of it. Get the guy a break. He's trying. He's a Vulcan. He's a full-blooded Vulcan, which Spock was not. So Spock could loosen up a little bit, where Tuvok was very, and he was a Vulcan that went through the Kolinar, so he was very, very dyed-in-the-wool Vulcan. So, cool. Speaking of Vulcans, what a great segue. Oh my gosh. Episode 16, this is one I really dug, because talk about turning a Star Trekism on its ear. It's Blood Fever, directed by Andy Robinson, Garrick from DS9. And I always forget that this block is filled with actor directors, which I love. This was one of the first solo stories by Lisa Klink, who was a junior story editor, writer's room person. So this was a solo from her, and she nailed it. From Feb of 97, Vulcan crewman Vorik, who we've been seeing for the last several episodes, he's kind of an assistant engineer to B'Elanna. He passes his Ponfar onto B'Elanna. Whoops! Because he's got hit with the Ponfar. If you're not familiar, which I'm sure you are, dear listener, Ponfar being the Vulcan mating urge, which seems to not really be a thing in Strange New Worlds, but we don't need to mess with that. He attempts to bond with B'Elanna, and he passes it along to her, and is not great results. Meanwhile, the crew has come upon the seemingly uninhabited world of Sakari. They discover ruins and send down an away team that meets a few survivors and found some underground caves. It becomes okay. Well, they're kind of cut through the meat here. With B'Elanna exposed to the Ponfar, she starts going through all the symptoms. She's coming on to Paris. It becomes obvious that Paris has to mate with her. If you're not watching YouTube, you're not seeing my air quotes. In order to purge the blood fever. But anyway, what the summary is really trying to ladle on here is that when they're finding remains of the invaders of these ruins, they find out that one of them is a Borg skeleton. Yeah. So this is finally the big tee up to where we're going to see through the end of the season, which is the Borg being in the mix. But again, we're talking about the last 30 seconds of the episode. So I think it kind of sucks that this summary lumped that in there, because this was a great episode. Talk about exploring something that cuts right back to the beginning of the original series with the mock time, which we talked about in the episode in our last episode as being one of our competitors, being a Trek classic, but really turning it on its ear. And what would it be if a Klingon went through the Ponfar? They either had to mate, and then you have B'Elanna, who is not a very sexual character. She's kind of gruff and tumble, and her friendship with Tom had been kind of steadily evolving over the last first half of this season. But it was just kind of a, to steal a parlance of Guardians of the Galaxy, it was very Sam and Diane from Cheers kind of situation. You just didn't really, if it was going to go somewhere, it was going to take a while. And then a very Star Trek like plot kicked it in overdrive. They didn't end up mating, and again, I do love the Kunat Khalife, which is the ritual combat executed at the end, presided over by Tuvok. I do like that once he sets it up, he goes, "Begin," and he throws his fist down. I don't
have a gong. He's got to make it up.
exactly. So Tuvok kind of becomes your Vulcan cultural tour guide for this one. And I do love that first the doctor tries to medically solve the issue by putting Vorik in a holodeck with a hot, Vulcan looking gal. And I guess that's not really going to be our answer to our, sexual dysfunction in the future is the holodeck. I guess not. But
it does kind of imply that, people do use the holodeck for this. I mean, we all kind of know, but they say it explicitly here.
Right. And it gets revisited later in the series because Tuvok inexplicably at his great age, he's in his, he's 125 or so, it still goes through the Ponfar. I guess there's not Vulcan menopause. Ooh, that could be another great name of the episode. There's not Vulcan menopause to deal with. I suppose menopause, Vulcanopause. I don't know, whatever. But it doesn't work for Vorik. It's, the drives are too strong. So instead of him, Vorik fighting Tom Paris, he ends up fighting B'Elanna.
Because she can choose her own champion, and she chose
her own champion. And, it's very typical, 90s phony baloney fight choreography. But you know what? I enjoyed it. yeah, it's not like, it's not the Matrix, it's not John Wick,
It's not supposed to be about the fight choreography, though. It's supposed to be
right,
about the story. And,
right,
the story, I think, is, Vorik is coming in here going, I had to do this instinctively. I don't know why. They don't know a lot about the pawn. They know more than they did in the original series times, because back then they didn't know anything. But
right.
they're just not talking about it, and it's this like abstinence only Vulcan sex ed that is getting to this like issue where Vorik's like, I don't know what's going on. I didn't know that there was this like psychic bond that happens that's going to transfer everything to Balana. But when you repress yourself, and this is a theme kind of going throughout most of these episodes, not just about sexual repression, but like denying the fact that that people need each other, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
In the first one we watched, it was the operator at the station that was taking the form of the hologram that was reaching out to Tuvok, that she's like, I just need a connection with
Right.
someone. And we see this throughout some more of the episodes that we're going to be watching and talking about today.
Yeah, most def. So anyway, super great episode. It definitely gets a thumbs up. And we segue into episode 17, which was also one I really dug. So go ahead.
Yeah, here's another one talking about isolation and unity. Unity, directed by Robert Duncan McNeil.
Another actor, and that is actually, I listen to the Delta Flyers every week. That has been his career in the last 20 years. Is that he is purely a director, and he's directed more stuff than you can shake a stick at. But anyway,
and written by Kenneth Biller. Chakotay answers the call for help on a planet and finds himself in the middle of a shootout between groups of people. Meanwhile, the Voyager crew discovers an abandoned Borg ship.
A lot of those Borg ships just laying around all over the place.
They've been seeding this for a while now, and at the end of the last episode, they're like, "Oh, it's a Borg,
right?
That was the invaders here." And with this one, the planet that Chakotay happens to land on, he's taken in by this woman who's talking about. She's kind of they were kidnapped and taken against their will and brought to this planet because she's human. And on this planet, we also have other Alpha Quadrant species that we're familiar with. And
she's human, and she's ex-Starfleet too, which I kind of struggled with, like, well, why do they, the whole timeline of Borg stuff, and it gets more and more complicated as time goes on. So, yeah. Super cool. I thought, without a doubt, this is really the Borg 100% became more of a Voyager thing, even just within the next, 10 episodes, because again, then you get 7 of 9 in season 4, and it becomes such a heavy focus. But this was really teeing this up. So yeah, you get this group that they liberated themselves. They're finally they're freeing themselves of Borg, their Borg appliances. But then they figure out that, hey, you know what? We're all from races that we still kind of hate each other. Klingons hate Romulans, and humans hate Romulans, and this thing and that, because one of the other main characters is a Romulan. So they need something within the abandoned cube, which is intact, because then they beam over a Borg corpse and manage to reanimate it, and then have to shut it off again. But our group kind of waylays Chakotay, and they force him to reactivate the cube so that it can fix everybody's brain and make everything harmonious again. Boy, there's a lot to unpack with that. You know what I mean? Because
so much in this episode, more than this sets up stuff that happens in Picard season 2, even, because you have this group of ex-Borgs here, and the woman who's kind of their leader talking about, I'm not going to necessarily spoil anything or get into anything, but like, it sets up the ex-Borgs, it sets up 7 of 9, it sets up the fact that you can be deborgified and live your own life as an individual. It sets up this she's got her own version of the Federation that she calls the Cooperative. And she's in the midst of this chaos, and she's trying to kind of make a Federation type society here, which I say in my notes, it's like, that's what we try to do. That's what I try to do, is to kind of create some sort of harmony in the chaos of our lives right now.
Right.
But this, my note says, this is very much like the Borg and Picard season 2, but this makes more sense in less time.
I gotta drag you through 2 episodes of
I call it as I see it.
Nailed it. Nailed it. More sense in less time. Oh
Yeah.
my God. If it wasn't so long, that would be the episode title.
Yeah.
As it is, I thought Vulcan Sex Ed was a better title for the episode. So we're gonna roll with that so far. So yeah, we had we had what I thought was three good episodes in a row, and now I think we're teeing it up to 3 crappy episodes in a row.
Yeah, and there's this
that
one.
was my take. So we'll blast through these pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because there's not a ton to say.
There's not much in this.
Episode 18 is Darkling. Again, actor-directed Alexander Singer. I thought it said Alexander Siddig. I thought it was Dr. Bashir. I was getting excited. But Alexander Singer, now that I think about it, is someone who's a heritage director.
Yeah.
The story is by Braga and Minosky, so 2 stalwart writers of the series. Teleplay also by Minosky. So you kind of try to figure out where they went wrong. From Feb of 97, the Doctor attempts to graft other personalities into his program, and it causes him to develop an evil alternate personality. I get it. They really work really hard to give every character, because every character, the really standout ones anyway. I mean, there are some that are vaguely generic. Harry Kim and Tom Paris, I like them, but they don't really jump out at you as being super exciting characters. Where the Doctor and then later 7 of 9 are kind of Star Trek 101, which is a non-human character, an altered human character that reflects back on humanity. Mm-hmm. So the Doctor he's not organic, but he's trying to become more human, kind of like Spock or Odo. And this is a way he tries to do it. But yeah, it's a real Jekyll and Hyde thing. And then now you've got Kes, who is, now that she and Neelix are split up for good, which they don't directly address. She broke up with him when she was under the influence of an alien, but she obviously figured out that was a good idea to stay broken up with him, because it's never addressed again. But here she's dating, some young handsome guy from this alien planet, and the Doctor's skulking around and beats the guy or pushes him off a cliff or something. And it's just, I see what they're trying to do, but it was to me, it was very soap opera to the Jekyll and Hyde kind of bit.
The first half of the episode is about Kes, and I'm going, isn't this supposed to be about the Doctor? Because I'm looking at the summary and seeing, it's a Doctor episode. The whole first half is Kes. And it's like, So you've got the B story and then the A story, but they're sort of in chunks rather than woven together into the same episode.
It's a stew. It's a A-B stew.
It's a weird feeling of like, this isn't, there's something wrong with the pacing. There's something like, it's a technical kind of problem. And then the story itself is kind of just, it's there.
It is absolutely there.
You've got Bob Picardo hamming it up. He's having fun.
Right.
And in the same way that Jennifer Lean was in the other episode.
Oh, and the Warlord.
Warlord, right? So it's another theme that kind of goes through some of these episodes where you're talking about like, the good and bad and the bad that we're capable of. And there's a theme here. They're all kind of setting up a Borgish theme.
Right.
But like, This didn't really do it for me. It just,
I hear ya.
It's Neelix was a bad boyfriend. Kes is going with it. The one thing I did notice though is that Kes was a character with potential. I know we've talked about that before, kind of.
Yeah.
Kes seeing the good in everyone. Maybe not such a good match for the cynical mid-90s, but she's a curious adventurer from a culture that doesn't necessarily value that, who does see the good in people, and that's a character type that I feel eventually pays off when we get to Discovery with Saru.
Oh!
Because talking about the Okampa and how they're kind of in that they don't have the technology themselves necessarily, but you have Kes who's like, no, I want to go, I want to see what's out there, and it's better, so much better in Saru, and seeing that in now, we're ready for a character like that sees the good in people and who is more empathic. And just wanted to point that out.
Wow. That is not a tack I would take. So
Yeah.
kudos to you. All right. Well, try to find some kudos in this next
Yeah.
episode because it is, I don't know. You know what? I lost track.
God, it's Rise.
No, that's you. Go for it.
It's Rise. I'm ugh.
Sorry.
Sorry. I really am trying to see the good in everything.
That's okay. You don't always have to.
This one's difficult. So this is the episode Rise, directed by Robert Shearer, story by Jimmy Diggs, and teleplay by Brandon Braga. Voyager helps a planet with asteroid problems.
What?
So
what
specific.
A description. Yeah, exactly.
Tuvok and Neelix crash land on the planet and attempt to fix a maglev space elevator. There are some really good episodes about Tuvok and Neelix.
Right. Agreed.
This is not one of them.
It's a whiny crybaby fest.
Tuvok's just kind of mean.
Right.
They point that out. And like not just the idea of the characters being kind of off, but the story itself, like we open on a random scene where there's just asteroids and I'm like, who are these people? Where did they come from? Why are we helping them? What's going on and why do we care?
Right.
So like we don't care about these people because we don't know their story. We don't know why they need help. It's just asteroids. There's an asteroid problem.
Here come some asteroids.
And it's just so we have to send a shuttle down to do what exactly? Rescue some dudes, but we don't know who they are. Like it's just
right. And it turns into it like it's a weird mystery thing, and then some aliens show up, and is there a connection between them? So it's very mystery of the week that doesn't really contribute.
It's not really effective storytelling in my opinion.
growth between any, because and again in an episode in a season that's very a series that's very monster of the week, and like TNG was like we have to go to this place to keep this to help this group out or whatever. The growth that you're really looking for is the the growth between the characters or someone's particular arc. So you're looking for, okay, well, how did Tuvok grow from this, or how did Neelix grow from this? And you're right, they didn't. They clash. It's kind of obnoxious the way they're kind of fighting with each other, and is just less said the better. And again about it's no stakes because again it's our people are going to live and nothing lasting comes out of it.
There's no moral conundrum that I really like in my Star Trek. It's
right.
It's there.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of it's just there, we wrap up this trilogy of crapulence, as Mr. Burns might say on The Simpsons, with episode 20, Favorite Son. Directed by Marvin Rush, a stalwart of Star Trek directing. Lisa Klink again writing an episode. Sorry, Lisa. From March of 1997. Harry Kim is drawn to a planet that is nearly all women. That's even a bad description of the episode.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's going to the planet of the Amazons from Futurama and Death by Snoo Snoo. It's nothing sexy like that. It's just so talk about a contrived plot line. So it starts where he's on the bridge and they run into an alien race, and for no reason at all, Harry fires on them. And he's like, oh, I had a feeling that something weird was going to happen or whatever. And then they escape that ship, and then another ship shows up and say, Harry's actually one of us. We implanted an embryo that we put in his mother. He's our species. And it's just like they're going further and further down this tunnel of crap, and you don't have a rope to climb out. And it's kind of what you said. Well, Harry has his reservations, and then he figures out that, they just basically trick men to come back to this planet so that they can eat their essence and kill them. And it's just like, Harry would only be the only one of them who would fall for it. So, talk about unattainable women. You do get a notable guest face in here. You get actress. Oh God, I've already forgotten her name. But she played the first female Terminator in one of the Terminator movies, and her name was Her name was, oh God, I'm going to forget. Did I click on the wrong link? You know who I'm talking about, right? Christiana Loken.
Okay.
Terminator 3. The one with Nick Stahl, and Claire Danes. Anyway,
I haven't seen it.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've seen the first two. That's kind of
you know what? If that's when it comes to Terminator movies, that's just fine. Yeah, this was a swing and a miss and a swing and a miss and a swing and a miss and a swing and a miss.
Here's
just
the thing:
nothing connected for me.
I secretly really like this episode.
Tell me, you know what? Break it down for me. I'm all ears.
It is objectively not a good episode, and I'm aware of that.
Objectively,
but I mean, like you're saying, none of it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It is like the first kind of bad where it doesn't make sense, right? So it doesn't make sense bad, there's aesthetically bad, and then there's offensive. And this is that right. So this is that it doesn't make sense bad, but it fits in with the themes of isolation and reaching out. It fits in with this idea of colonization and forced assimilation. It's really getting into these themes of the Borg here. And the thing is, really? I know, you're like, where are you getting this? Because what they're doing is they're bringing these men in and saying, you're one of us. You're going to assimilate to our cult. They have this whole cult thing, right? The initiation looks like a cult thing. The fact that they're cutting off his contact with his friends and family that he knows are going to reach out for him. They do this intentionally, even that he's trying to reach out. It's these very culty kind of practices that they're doing. So like I'm seeing where it's setting up this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't hate it. It's one of those episodes that's like, it's not very good, but I always kind of liked it. Maybe because when I was a kid, I sort of secretly hoped I was an alien. And I'm seeing, I felt like one though. Like that's the thing. I understand. I felt like I didn't belong, right? So one of the first stories that I wrote actually was about a girl who found out that she was an alien and got to go home. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is like the story I wrote when I was 10, 11 years old, right?
Right. Obviously with better results because nobody tried to consume your life force.
Yeah, no. It ended up great. She was like, okay, I found my home. I found my people. But like, that's what happens when you're 10 or 11 and you're feeling like an outcast and you feel like you don't belong and you watch a lot of Star Trek. You kind of write stories like that.
Aww.
So,
Now you're making me feel bad about trashing it.
No, nobody else likes this episode. I'm well aware. I'm like the only person that actually likes this episode.
Yeah.
If anybody else likes this episode, feel free to, let me know. But like, I enjoyed it in a way that kind of spoke to like my inner child in that way.
Yeah.
And then,
that's okay.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, secretly kind of like it despite itself.
Right. That is okay.
Yeah. The whole ending is weird, and it does. I'm like, of course you get out because you have to, because that's how the show goes, and
And on we go, as I was always fond of saying, on I go to my next exciting adventure. So, well, hey, that wraps up this bracket of episodes. All right, let's pick a favorite and a least favorite out of the 7. Go for it.
I think my favorite's going to be Blood Fever. I really like Tom and B'Elanna, and I like how this sort of starts to set that up. My least favorite is Rise.
I hear ya. Mine will be very close. I agree with Blood Fever. Again, I caught this in reruns during that summer. I'm like, damn, I can't believe I missed this. This was like great Star Trek. And then, Favorite Son was so super contrived. It's like, boy, they're really reaching for something here that I'm like, I wasn't a 10-year-old girl who wrote a story about being an alien. So I think that was the missing element.
Yeah, that would totally make fine. Like I said, I know I'm the only person who likes this episode.
That would make somebody enjoy it.
Even the people who are in it don't like it. So
it's funny. I should go back and listen to that episode, the Delta Flyers, where they talk about that. Would have been some time back.
And the thing too is that Garrett talks about like, I got to be sexy as an Asian man, being sexy and desired. So I'm like, what? It kind of gives it a point in that column too for that, Star Trek representation of,
Right.
Yeah.
This is a very good point.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I loved this experiment. Thanks for being on it. Welcome to the team formally as being one of our recurring guest hosts. Where do people find you out there on the internet?
All right. So I am found at Linktree /Jen Watson Art. At the link tree, you will be able to find my Instagram, my Facebook, my Etsy shop, and any other projects that I'm currently working on, like my illustrations and new t-shirts.
All kinds of crazy cool stuff. Yeah. That's awesome. As always, you can find me over on Twitter at the C3. Go ahead and spell it out. My lovely wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey, one of the biggest chapters of Starfleet International in this big spinning blue globe we call Earth. We are based here in West Michigan. I also head up Region 13, which is Michigan and Eastern Canada. If you're a Trekker within the sound of my voice in those places or even somewhere else, drop us a line at our website or any of our socials, and we would be very happy to connect you with Trekkers in the place where you live. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
And be the Starfleet that you wish to see in the world.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.